Since long times, the armed forces have been the main guarantor of the independence of any country and the security of its citizens. After the events at the beginning of 2020, all countries hold on to tension and are preparing for a new impending war. Today, we look at the top 10 most powerful armies in the world based on the Global Firepower Index rating. Our ranking of the top 10 most powerful armies opens Iran. Iran is the leader of the Shiite Islamic world, a country with a large population and a large army for the Middle East. The armed forces of Iran consist of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Iranian army itself. In total, more than 500,000 people and 350,000 reservists serve in the armed forces. These are the largest armed forces in the Middle East. Turkey has 30% less. Iran also has a great influence on other armed groups in the region, in Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Afghanistan and Yemen. Tehran's main goal is to spread its influence in the Middle East and subsequently strengthen it, or at least prevent opponents or enemies such as Saudi Arabia and Israel from influencing regional politics. Iran's main rival in the international arena currently is United States, especially after the assassination of Kassem Suleimani in January 20. Ninth place is a country with ancient history, Turkey. The army of this country is considered the strongest among the Muslim armies of the Middle East. The descendants of the warlike Janissaries managed to create highly combat-ready armed forces. The number of Turkish armed forces is 510,000 people. However, the military budget of this country is only $19 billion. Turks, until recently, were the closest US allies in the region, not counting of course Israel. Turkey has a large number of armored vehicles, 3,370 tanks, and more than 1,000 combat aircraft. The Turkish Navy is the strongest in the Black Sea. It uses modern surfaces, ships and submarines. The country is actively developing its military-industrial complex. NATO countries and more recently Russia have been helping them in this. Another strong point of the Turkish army is the presence of great combat experience. For many years, the Turks have been fighting with various terrorist organizations at their border. The next country is North Korea, the most closed country foreigners rarely visited. And information about the state of the North Korean economy is classified. It is even more difficult to obtain information about the army of the state. North Korea is the last communist totalitarian state on the planet. In terms of the strictness of the regime, it even surpasses the USSR of the Stalin period. There is still a planned economy. Famine happens from time to time, and public executions for North Koreans are commonplace. For more than 60 years, the North Koreans have managed to create one of the strongest and most numerous armies in the world. Today, North Korea has 1 million armed forces, numerous air forces, ballistic missiles, and an impressive submarine fleet. The North Korean Army Parade is a truly spectacular sight that takes the viewer to the last century. Surprisingly, North Korea is developing its military equipment and selling it to other countries. Among its buyers are Egypt, Pakistan, Iran, Syria, and Yemen. The North Koreans consider their southern neighbors the main enemy and constantly threaten them with war. The seventh place in our rating is Great Britain, a country that managed to create a world empire in which the sun did not set. But this is in the past. At the present stage, the UK remains one of the leading countries in the world, actively participating in the system of international relations. Today, the number of British armed forces is 188,000 people. The country's military budget is $53 billion. The British have a very worthy military-industrial complex, which is able to manufacture tanks, planes, warships, small arms, and other weapons. Britain has the second after the United States in terms of tonnage of the Navy. The British Special Operation Forces are considered among the best in the world. Great Britain is involved in almost all military conflicts where the United States is in presence. In 6th place, we have Japan, which formally does not have an army at all. Its functions are performed by the so-called self-defense forces. However, do not let this name fool you. The country's armed forces number are 247,000 people. Japan has serious air forces, ground forces, and an impressive navy, which is considered one of the strongest in the world. Japan has more than 1,600 combat aircraft, 680 tanks, and 16 submarines. The country has the third largest economy in the world. So for Japan, it is not difficult to allocate serious money for the maintenance and development of its army. Japan's military budget is 47 billion, which is not bad for the country armed forces of this size. In addition, Japan is one of the closest US allies in the region. In the country, there are American bases as well. The United States supplies Japan with the latest weapons. In the 5th place, we have France. France is one of the founders of NATO and possesses nuclear weapons. The army is 220,000 people. The country's military budget is $63 billion. The military-industrial complex of France allows providing its army with almost all the necessary weapons, from small arms to tanks, planes and reconnaissance satellites. However, it should be noted that the French, like the Germans, do not seek to solve foreign policy issues by military means. France has no disputed territories with neighbors, as well as frozen conflicts. In 4th place in our ranking are the armed forces of India. This huge, densely populated country with a booming economy has an armed forces of 1,325,000 people, while there is no mandatory army draft in the country. In addition, India is the owner of nuclear weapons. They spend about 67 billion on defense needs, and there is a simple explanation for this. The country is in conflict with its neighbors, China and Pakistan. In the recent history of India, there have been 3 bloody wars with Pakistan and a huge number of border incidents. There are also unresolved territorial differences with China. Every year, the Indian government spends serious amounts on the purchase of new weapons. China. The People's Liberation Army of China has the largest land army in the world. Their number is 2,300,000 people. The military budget of China is in 2nd place in the world and second only to the United States, and thus the Chinese army is constantly raising its technical level. At present, China is working on 5th generation fighter. The latest developments in the field of tank building and missile weapons are not much inferior to the models made in Russia or in the West. Much attention is paid to the development of the naval forces, given the enormous resources available to China. The armed forces of this country in the coming years will become a formidable rival for countries that occupy the first positions in our ranking. In 2nd place is Russia. The armed forces of Russia in many positions remain the strongest on the planet. In terms of the number of personnel, the Russian army occupies only 5th place behind the USA, China, India, and North Korea. Its number is 798,000 people. The budget of the Russian Defense Department is $62 billion. However, at the same time, it has one of the most powerful ground forces in the world. More than 20,000 tanks, a huge number of armored vehicles and combat helicopters. It should be noted the most powerful military-industrial complex, which Russia inherited from the Soviet Union. They are able to independently produce almost the entire range of weapons for the modern land, army and navy. Russia is one of the largest arms exporters in the world. It is second only to the United States. Russia's problem is that significant part of the armaments of its army is represented by obsolete Soviet models. Re-equipment costs a lot, and not the fact that the Russian economy will be able to withstand this burden. And the most influential country is the United States of America. It leads our rating by the number of personnel. The US Army is second only to China. Its number is 1,380,000 people. At the same time, the US military has a budget that generals of other armies can only dream of. $650 billion, which allows them to be the most powerful country in the world. The power of modern armed forces largely depends on their financing. Therefore, the huge US defense budget is one of the main components of its success. It allows Americans to develop and purchase the most modern and most expensive weapons and supply their army at the highest level and simultaneously conduct several military campaigns in different parts of the world. In total, more than 600 US military bases operates in 36 countries of the world. Today, the US Air Force is rightfully considered the strongest in the world. Currently, the US Navy has 11 nuclear carriers, more than 70 submarines, a large number of aircraft and auxiliary ships. There is another factor that arose after the end of World War II: nuclear weapons. Today, two states have the largest nuclear arsenals: Russia and the United States. The conflict between them is guaranteed to lead to end of our civilization. That is all, friends. I hope you will motivate me by subscribing, liking and leaving your comments below. More interesting videos will be soon on my channel. I wish you success and stay tuned. See you all soon in the next video. Goodbye.